This is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, which you can listen to on all podcasting platforms. Just search Inside the Birds and their YouTube channel, which, of course, you can get Football at 4 and all of their great football programming from the Inside the Birds guys, including Adam Caplan, who is back to take a look at the mock draft we started on Friday. We'll continue it now here on the Sports Bash, live on 97.3 ESPN. Adam Caplan, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Mike, I am good. We'll talk about Isaiah Rodgers in a minute because the league finally reinstated him. I don't know why it took so long, but look, we're 48 hours away. I mean, just over 48 hours. We're looking forward to Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern when it all starts. The Eagles will pick theoretically after 10 o'clock. Could be earlier than that, depending if they trade up or not, or if, of course, if they trade back. So we'll see what happens, but we're looking forward to it, Mike, which should be a very interesting first round for any team picking in the first round.
Yes, we will take a look. We'll continue the mock draft that we started on Friday, but you mentioned Isaiah Rodgers. He was suspended back on June 29th. He was violating the league's policy on gambling, so he missed the entire season. He said that the wagers, including some smaller ones, a $1,000 prop bet, were placed from his online sports gambling account, and therefore he was suspended for the year. But he is back now. What does that mean for the Eagles' cornerback and secondary room?
Yeah, so we were told months ago that they were counting on him to get to be reinstated. They did some homework on him. They felt comfortable. They had their college draft notes. They kind of knew what the situation was with him, and they were right. I mean, he was reinstated. What I just don't understand is why was he not reinstated with the other players last week? I don't get it, but nevertheless, we actually will look into that just for our own edification. But anyway, he's back. He's capable of playing inside or outside for the Colts. He played mostly outside because Kenny Moore's their nickel. That's why it happened. Kenny Moore is arguably the NFL's best nickel. $10 million a season. So, but the thing I don't understand is why didn't their GM Chris Ballard wait till he got reinstated? Being that, by the way, he was going to be probably their kickoff returner. Had he not got in trouble, he was going to be their kickoff returner, and he was one of their top four corners. That to this day, I don't know why they didn't let him. Why they didn't wait for him? That's a little bit disappointing, but in troubling, to be honest with you, considering he was their own player. But the hope here is, and the Eagles did their homework, that Rodgers has got himself straight off the field. There were issues at UMass, we were told by multiple sources from college. So. But that's a while back now. He's been humbled, obviously, through this. If you watch him through social media, he's all over it. Let's see what happens. They're not counting on him. I got his contract today. There's no guaranteed money. He's got what's called an old school make good contract. To make any money this season, he's got to make the roster. They're not counting on him, but they have a role in mind for him. He's got inside-outside capability. As I mentioned, kickoff returner. He could actually, Mike, look, if he gets through OTAs, they get a look at him. He's in good shape. He gets to the mandatory camp. If he does well there and gets to training camp, has a good preseason and makes the roster, Mike, he could have a pretty good role here as a backup inside and outside corner and a special teams returner. So let's see what happens. But this is good for the Eagles, and this is a guy that they were counting on. And right now it's looking good, but we'll see how he does.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of buzz about the Eagles and the cornerback position, so they get another one added to the room today with Isaiah Rodgers being reinstated there. On Friday, we took everybody through the top 10 of your mock draft over at Pro Football Network. We'll continue with picks 11 down to Philadelphia at number 22 today on Football at 4. So let's crank it back up and go to Minnesota and the Vikings. They lost Kirk Cousins. Obviously, they need a quarterback. There's one in play. Is that where you see them going?
Now, again, we're not doing trades in my mock at ProFootballNetwork.com, but I fully expect the Vikings are going to get a quarterback. Remember, they don't have a second or third round pick, so they have to do something. That's why they have the extra first round pick, which they traded for. So, yeah, I got J.J. McCarthy going here. They'll either trade up to get him, or they'll either trade up for a quarterback or select a quarterback at number 11. They have plenty of other needs, Mike, but they have to get their quarterback. They boxed themselves in, quite frankly. I mean, it's a shame that they did it that way, but it is what it is, my friend. They're not going into the season with Sam Darnold being the guy. Trust me, that's not happening.
All right, that would be Minnesota at number 11. 12's an interesting spot. They made a trade yesterday for Zach Wilson, Denver does. So some people think quarterback for them. Is Zach Wilson their guy? What do we see with the Denver Broncos? Sean Payton's crew at number 12.
That's right, a guy the Eagles know very, very well. So Denver at number 12, they need someone to play opposite Patrick Surtain Jr. I've got Quinyon Mitchell, the top corner in the draft, and from what we've been told privately, it's not really close. Terrion Arnold is probably the second guy, not a lot, but probably the second guy. Corner will go off the board. Mitchell, as Jim Nagy told us, we're going to run an interview, the director of the Senior Bowl. Jim told us yesterday that, and he confirmed this, we'd heard this, but Jim kind of gave us the details. Mitchell really was an off-man corner. He didn't really press. Well, he got the press at the Senior Bowl, and scouting sources, we've been told, were very happy with that. He looked very smooth doing it. Denver needs a corner to start. Yes, they need a quarterback, and by the way, the Zach Wilson trade will change nothing of that. They have three quarterbacks. Two of them are guys who figure to make the roster. Wilson certainly will make the roster, and Jared Stidham right now who will be the starter. But again, they're not out of the quarterback race, but they really need a cornerback, and we're going to go with a corner here for Denver at number 12.
Quinyon Mitchell, Toledo. All right, number 12 for Denver. So that would be another corner off the board for Philadelphia. What about Vegas at number 13? They've got a ton of needs. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 needs for this team listed.
Mike, they want a quarterback badly, but Tom Telesco, I know a little bit. He's their GM. He has personnel control. He's not a very aggressive guy. He lets the board usually come to him. It's the first time in his career he has full personnel control. He shared it with John Spanos with the Chargers, but he's going to make the call here. They love to get a quarterback. The Eagles would love it if they traded up for a quarterback. This would really help them. Not so that way Terrion Arnold would still be on the board, potentially past 13. But again, we're not doing trades. At 13, a quarterback probably won't be available to them, so we're going to go with Terrion Arnold, our number 2 cornerback for this draft from Alabama.
So that's 2 corners now off the board before Philadelphia picks at number 22. And if that's an area where fans out there are hoping they get, that would be 2 off the board, possibly a trade up, which we've heard some buzz about, obviously, over the last 24 to 48 hours. Let's go to New Orleans, who right now sitting at number 14 in the draft. The Eagles and Saints have been active on draft days in the past. So here's an interesting spot for the Saints in a pretty wide-open division.
Yeah, they don't need a corner. They're pretty set there, but for the future, and the mock drafts are always about the future, not really much about this season. They may need a corner for the future, but what they need now is they completely whiffed on Trevor Penning, the left tackle. He got benched last season, a first rounder in 2022. Their left side of their line might look new this season. So Troy Fautanu is the guy that I have going to them. Who a couple offensive line coaches told me. One personnel guy said, "Listen, he could play he could play left tackle. Everybody thinks that he'll be a right tackle or guard, but he's got long arms for I know he's not tall, but bottom line is they need offensive line help, and it's Fautanu who will go here for the Saints at 14.
All right, I like him a lot. It'll be interesting to see. If he starts dropping a little bit, which we don't anticipate, if Howie gets on the phone there because of his positional versatility. He's one of them guys that can start as a guard, bounce out to tackle, so he's a fun guy to keep an eye on. Let's go to the Colts at number 15. This is a team, obviously, with Shane Steichen as the head coach, has an offensive-minded head coach, but do they need to improve the defense?
They do. Boy, they could use a receiver. Alec Pierce was a second rounder from a couple years ago. It hasn't quite happened for them. I wouldn't discount Brock Bowers going here. Right now on our mock, he's still on the board. It would not surprise me at all. I know they have like 5 tight ends. Keep telling people depth is not about quantity, it's about quality. They don't have a stud tight end. To help Anthony Richardson, who played very well, by the way, before he hurt his shoulder. But corner is a major need for them. Outside corner, they got their nickel. They got one good corner starter in Juju Brents. They need a starter opposite him. We're going to go with Nate Wiggins from Clemson at number 15 to the Colts.
Wiggins is a name who's been coming up around the Eagles a lot in that area as well. So that's 3 corners now off the board for Adam Caplan.
Ouch, Mike.
Yes.
Yes, unfortunately for the Eagles, yes. See, this is why if the Eagles trade, they know they're going to have to get somewhere at least into the middle. See, here's the thing, Mike. The Eagles don't have a 3. They have 2 2s. You don't want to give up so much compensation. And we'll talk more about this Friday. We'll see if they've done it. But, Mike, you got to be careful. The Eagles have so many needs for this season and for the future. They're kind of. It's not good to be a 22. That's the issue they face. I just wanted to bring that up.
All right, let's go to Seattle would be next at number 16. The Seahawks, obviously, a team that has a bunch of needs, as you list 7 needs up for Seattle here. And this is a team that, is an iffy quarterback situation out there with Geno Smith. Good, not great. But what about on the defensive side of the ball? So where do you see the Seahawks going?
Yeah, and with Geno Smith's situation at quarterback, Geno Smith is signed through 2025, but they can get out of his contract and not owe him a dime. He's got a roster bonus due on the 5th day of free agency, so they can look to get out of it. So you don't typically draft an off-the-ball linebacker. They run a 34 front. I don't see them drafting that guy at 16. Now, John Schneider, the GM, for the first time in his career since 2010, became the general manager. He has full personnel control. Pete Carroll technically had it, but he rarely used it. See, you're right, Mike. They could certainly look to draft a quarterback, but we don't see one being there. They need pass rushing help. They'd like an edge rusher. I don't see Jared Verse being available. I could see them drafting an interior rusher, Byron Murphy, who our Andrew DeCecco, by the way, had him going off at 8 in our mock draft that we did for Monday's show, Mike. That was a stunner. By the way, it wouldn't shock me if he went with a little bit higher than I have him going here. That was a bold pick by Andrew. So I got Byron Murphy from Texas, who's tremendous, really good football player. He goes to 16 to Seattle.
Yeah, and it's, I believe, going back to Friday when we did the mock draft first top 10, I think it's the first interior defensive lineman off the board. So if the Eagles want to go interior line, they might have a guy hanging around in that area. Byron Murphy could be there. Let's go to Jacksonville at number 17. Adam Caplan's mock draft over at ProFootballNetwork.com. All right, let's go to the Jags, and what do you like there?
Well, much to the chagrin of the Eagles, the Jaguars are really bad at corner. They've got one good corner in Campbell, and Campbell was hurt a lot last season. They cut Darius Williams, who went back to the Rams. Darn it, they're good at safety. They really are. But right now they're going with old friend Ronald Darby, the off-injured but talented Darby, just as a fill-in, as a stopgap corner. So they need to remember the draft is about the future. Unfortunately for the Eagles, we've got them going for Kool-Aid McKinstry, the other Alabama corner. Now, again, from the teams we spoke with, we have Arnold going before him. You never say never. We don't have access to everyone's draft boards, but we've got McKinstry going here at number 7 to the cornerback needy Jaguars.
All right, there's a fourth corner now off the board for Philadelphia's potential needs there. That takes us to number 18, and I can't believe there's a guy that's still on the board here. The Bengals have a ton of outside weapons. Do they look to fix their defense, or do they go with another weapon on offense?
Well, the Bengals certainly, you're right, Mike. They could use a corner. They need more pass rushers. But here's the problem. The value doesn't meet the need. There are no corners you would take here, I would think, and certainly edge guys are gone. Again, I don't see Jared Verse making it to here. The Bengals have missed at tight end for years. Remember when they tried Tyler Eifert and Jermaine Gresham as former first-round tight ends? They had mixed, probably below average results. They weren't as good as they hoped they would be. They need a tight end. Brock Bowers is by far the best player on the board here. He's the pick at number 18 for the Bengals.
All right. Now, I know you didn't do trades here, but if he's on the board at number 18, would Howie Roseman pick up the phone?
Someone asked me that today. I know Goddard turns 30 in January, and he's had an injury history. They did it for Devontae Smith. He was the highest-graded player on the board, and they traded up for him. That was a home run. I wouldn't dismiss it, Mike. I wouldn't dismiss it because, again, they got to get that corner. They can't compete at a high enough level unless they do it. It's a great question, Mike. I'm going to say yes, he would, based on who's on the board. Again, now, if all the corners are gone, he can't get up high enough. That's partially why a trade down would not surprise me because, Mike, the way this board is going for me in this mock draft, their board's destroyed for corners. So, yeah, Bowers, sure. Bowers got close enough, but why would the Bengals not take Bowers there?
Yeah. Well, and by the way, the Bowers conversation came from that Mike Tannenbaum mock draft a couple weeks ago.
What did he do?
Well, he said, he does his GM, who he would pick if he was making the pick, and he had Bowers get all the way to 22 and mocked him to the Eagles.
That would be it. Look, I was shocked with Mitch Trubisky. You could push me over with a feather. If Bowers makes them to 22, I'll say clearly nobody knows anything. If he makes it to 22, I'm like, what are teams thinking? But anyway, you never know.
All right, Adam Caplan's with us, football at 4. Let's go to the Rams, who are making a first-round pick. That's news in itself. They have number 19. They haven't had a first-round pick, I think, since 2016.
2017, I think. But anyway, yeah, they took Goff in 16. You're right about that one. But anyway, they have to replace Aaron Donald. Johnny Newton. I mean, they could do it. The value is okay there at 19, but they need help at tackle. We've got Oli Fashanu, the left tackle from Penn State. He's going to go somewhere in the teens. He's really a left tackle. Some teams could play right. They've got Alaric Jackson now as their left tackle. He's at a 1-year RFA tender. Fashanu's got way more ability. This is a good pick for them. And by the way, they need edge rushers too, but again, I just don't see any edge rushers they would take at 19.
Yep, that's a tough spot with the Rams. That if you need that edge rusher, which they kind of do, and defensive tackle, they just lost a guy, right? I mean, they had a huge retirement in the middle of that line with Aaron Donald, so they would like to replace the Rams. You have them going offensive tackle. Let's go to the Steelers, who have been active at quarterback. Are they going to look at someone to protect these quarterbacks? Are they going to try to get these quarterbacks some weapons? They got a couple ways they can go.
Yeah, Brian Thomas could go here. They need a right tackle. I'm told they'd like to move Broderick Jones, who was the right tackle last year, to left. And that's pretty much what they're going to do. And they also need a starting corner. And again, no corners left. I think it's Brian Thomas or J.C. Latham. I got to believe Latham has a higher grade from clubs. And we're going with Latham here, who will be the right tackle. Their line has not been very good for years, and this is a great pick for them at number 20 to the Steelers.
Okay, let's go to Miami at number 21, and this is a Dolphins team that has a lot of needs as well. They lost a lot in free agency this year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You have 11 needs for the Dolphins here.
Yeah, again, remember, it's not so much this season, for the future. Look, they had all sorts of injury issues at edge rushers. There's no one here. There's not a corner you would take. There are some offensive linemen they could look at, and they've never gotten rid of their offensive line. But remember, they've got issues. They lost Christian Wilkins, their star defensive tackle, to the huge contract. To the Raiders, so we're going to go with Johnny Newton. The only other interior lineman who will go in the first round is Johnny Newton from the Illinois Illini. So we'll go with them. We'll go with him to the Dolphins at 21.
Okay, that's a defensive tackle, a spot that Philadelphia could be interested in, by the way. They did lose Fletcher Cox to retirement. If they think that Jordan Davis isn't where they want him to be and Milton Williams isn't ready, they could look to go interior line. They've done it twice with Davis and, of course, Jalen Carter. So that's not out of the realm of possibility. So Adam will be back on Friday to recap Thursday night. So before we get to Thursday, who do you like at 22?
Again, we don't do trades in this mock. There's no question in my mind that I'm not a percentage guy, but the percentages of them staying there are slim. Depending on which team you speak with, they're 19 to 21 true first-round grades. So this is kind of where the Eagles' cutoff point would be. They need their number one need by far is corner. Second is edge rush. I would say for the future. Could use a safety, off-the-ball linebacker. They got a ton of them. Half of them are gone after the season, at least not on a contract. Right guard, obviously. D-tackle, you're right, Mike. They could use a D-tackle for depth. But remember, the two young kids are going to start this season and also for receiver for the future. But the best player on the board by far, if he gets cleared medically, will go by any team, will go around the top 10. But Leatu Latu, the edge rusher from UCLA, is by far the best player on the board. We're for the sake of this mock, we're going to take him here. And we know the Eagles brought him in for a visit. Mosher put that out, and we know how much they like him. We put this out months ago on Inside the Birds. This is a guy that they have extreme interest in, and they were able to check him out physically when he was there, and they met with everybody. So this is a great pick for them if by chance he makes it, which could happen, by the way.
Yeah.
There's some teams think that, by the way, he had a bunch of visits with teams in the 20s. Why? A lot of teams think he's going to make it to the 20s because of the medical. Yes. We'll see what happens.
The Eagles, by the way, did have a medical guy a couple of years ago in DK Metcalf who had a neck injury that they did not draft because he was medically red flagged by the team. We'll see if this is a similar situation because, correct me if I'm wrong, he had a neck issue at Washington.
He did, but we're told it's different for Latu. His was more significant. Remember, UW wouldn't clear him.
Yep.
That's why he wound up playing for Chip Kelly at UCLA.
All right, Adam Caplan. He'll be back on Friday, and I guess we'll have a player in Philadelphia. We might have a trade. We'll see. And Adam will be here to recap it all on Football at 4 here. And don't forget, the Inside the Birds podcast has a ton of draft coverage. Download the latest podcast. Get it on all podcasting platforms. And check out their YouTube channel. Just search Inside the Birds. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.